Okay, everybody, so this is my review of The Falcon and the Winter Soldier Episode 3, Power Broker. So, the writer here switched again, and now we have Derek Kolstad, who wrote all the John Wick films, also wrote this newest film, Nobody, with Bob Odenkirk. That got me excited seeing that, because, like I've said in previous episodes, I wasn't so crazy about the writing so far, but this episode, I finally felt some good writing here. And what really stood out to me, it did not feel as clunky like I'm saying the past two episodes did with the writing, especially even with the editing and where they're placing scenes and setting things up. And it just feels all patched together. I did not feel that in this episode. Finally, I felt like it all ran smooth. And it worked so much better where most of this episode was with our main players in Bucky, Sam, and now adding Zemo. But it wasn't like switching to different storylines back and forth so much and feeling choppy. It kind of let you kind of set in the zone and let that tension just mount throughout this episode, which was really fantastic. And this is kind of what I feel like we were all expecting and waiting for out of the show, and it finally hit here, especially because it really worked adding Zemo, and it then really worked adding Sharon Carter to the mix here. I think both of their entrances definitely lived up to the hype and added so much that was needed to this show. What I also like is that they're doing the classic thing that always makes shows more exciting like this, having this weighing big bad in the background that we don't really know who the power broker is. And we see the doctor that was working for him, and we see there's, if you catch it, like this little graffiti that was shown where they are that says the power broker is watching. So it just adds to the hype. Okay, like, who is this person? People make theories. It makes it more exciting and adds a mystery to a show like this, which is also just a plus because it's mostly action based here. And I think it's really interesting the stuff they have going with Carly now with the Flag Smashers, because she's not just your black and white villain here. She is someone who has a motive, and you can sympathize with her, and you feel bad because you see these camps they have now of post-blip and how they're treating certain people, and now you really fully see her motivation. And it's a good motivation, right? Like, it's clear in what they're doing. They're not just this random terrorist group. They have a mission, and they have reasons for it that you can kind of understand, but then she goes too far, and you see it in the end when the guy's like, hey, there's people in that building. She just blows it up. She's like, well, this is what we got to do. So you see she's had enough now. She has that person close to her who got sick, and that we get this crazy, really, endgame she has to get this serum she's gotten and give it to the kids in this camp, and she's already given it to her crew. So that's really interesting stuff, and they didn't put too much of it to take away from the main plot line with Bucky and Sam. And man, I feel like Zemo is one of the most underrated villains in the MCU in general. I loved his character in Civil War, and they did a perfect decision to have him be the type of villain that is kind of the good guy on that side now this season. And it's because his motivation in Civil War being that Tony Stark killed his family that the Avengers did was something that you could sympathize with. So him having that end game where he wasn't just some villain who wanted to take down the Avengers, he has a whole thing where he doesn't believe in having these superheroes and superpowered people in the world. So it made sense for this storyline that he'd be the guy who they could temporarily see eye to eye with to help them out. And I mean, going back to the tension I brought up, I thought this scene was brilliant. And also, it was so funny that they had Falcon in this pimp outfit, they say, and he's the smiling tiger. I thought that was great. But when they get into this cyberpunk vibe, which totally felt, again, this whole episode like John Wick, and you have the John Wick writer here, so it makes sense. But it felt like a John Wick scene where they meet this person, Selby, and it's so tense, especially when Sam's phone's ringing and it's his sister Sarah, and then she figures out, like, who is Sam, and then the action starts, but it perfectly led into bringing in Sharon Carter, and then her always having people's back and kind of being that eye in the sky, which is just a cool entrance, and again, but a really tense scene, and the tension didn't let up, and they dropped in little great moments of humor where I think this show has been not great with the humor. Like, a lot of the jokes to me don't really land. I don't think are that funny. A lot feel forced. But one of the most funny moments in this show was when Zemo was dancing in the club. I thought that was hysterical because it was so subtle and it was such a quick shot of him dancing. So, I mean, I'm just impressed how much he added to this one episode. And I think what's interesting too is that with Sharon Carter, her being someone who's kind of forgotten about, and she's been off the grid. She can't even talk to her family. Her name's not cleared in America, and Falcon's now making this deal with her like, you help us out, I'll get you cleared. So it also really worked well, showing kind of Falcon's guilt for not like checking in with her sooner. And it also just opening his mind and her saying things like, the hero thing's a joke and the hypocrisy of heroes, sounding like Zemo. And there's some mystery to Sharon here. And let's start the theories people are going to have that she might be the power broker. Something's up with her because they ended off where she says bye to them, but she's talking to somebody and she's like, we got an issue here. So there's going to be more Sharon. We haven't seen the last of her, and something is not all there. Something's different about her. So I thought that was really cool, but it also brilliantly led to Falcon's character now like even more mad about this story we have about this black super soldier that was hidden. They find more information about this and how screwed up this whole situation was, and how they just talk about them like lab rats, all these super soldiers they had, and that he's like to Bucky, this great scene, he's like, hey, like, I kind of just want to destroy the shield now. And that he's like, this caused so much chaos this in life, but Bucky's always reminding him like, no, but you got to remember the good about it, and you can't get rid of that shield. So I think it's a good arc for Falcon because now he's at like his breaking point with just rejecting the shield, that I feel like now that we're at the midpoint of the show, the next 3 episodes, he's going to go the other way where he's going to find his own version of Cap he'll start to lean towards. And speaking of other versions of Cap, I do really like how we just got a little bit of John Walker, but they set it up nicely where he figured out that they broke out Zemo and he's going to do stuff off the record, off the books, to get Bucky and Sam now and take care of himself. So that seemed really exciting with his character too. So everything kind of just started clicking now and making things more interesting. And, it's interesting that the doctor here that was making the serum got killed, and that big reveal that like, hey, that was it. So Carly's connected, like, I got the last of the serum here. So Power Broker is going to be pissed, obviously, and coming for him. So it's going to be interesting to see when they introduce who Broker exactly is. I'm hoping it's not too late and sooner than later because we only got 3 episodes left. So I have a feeling it will be at least by the end of next week. And look, everything, character progression happened here for Carly because she's going the other way where she's going even mad with this anger she has where she's now just blowing up buildings and not caring who's in them. And you got Bucky and Sam where Bucky's now getting this temptation about Winter Soldier because yes, he's putting on an act, but at the same time there's this even when he just threw a knife at that person in the junkyard scene outside, like he paused for a second because feeling just like almost killing someone again felt off to him. So I thought that was really intriguing. And then again with Sam now just going full on anti-shield here, but that is going to change clearly. That we know this is going to be where this show is going to end, where he becomes some new version of Cap. But look, I really love the reveal at the end, and that was shocking. And they kept that under wraps really well because Bucky realizes they've been followed, and he goes on his own, and it's Wakanda shows up, and it just connects to when Bucky was in Wakanda. So we're going to kind of find out more about what really went down there, and I'm really excited they're bringing that in. So this episode was my first episode of Falcon Winter Soldier. I actually thoroughly enjoyed. Where I was hard on the first 2, this is what I was expecting from the start. I'm excited, and it's amazing what happens when you see the writer goes from the writer of Truth Be Told last week, and that's not a great show at all. If you've seen it, don't watch it if you haven't. But then you go to the writer of John Wick and you see improvement. So he's writing next week's episode, so I'm excited to see if that can keep up. And I'm in now. I'm really brought back into enjoying MCU shows. I'm giving this an 8.6. Like I said, let me know down below what you thought of this episode. I'd love to hear your thoughts. I read every comment and try to respond to as many as I can. Please make sure to subscribe so you don't miss one of my reviews of the Falcon and Winter Soldier. I'll be doing every single episode live right after they drop on Disney Plus. So you're gonna want to check that out. And please follow me at Steve Varley Show on Twitter and Instagram for more of me. And I'll see you next time.